Thank you so much for clicking on my channel and for joining me for this review of The Real Housewives of New Jersey, Season 13, Episode 13, Messes and Bridesmaid Dresses. So let's get into it. We start off with Danielle. Everybody's back home in Jersey. We start off with Danielle. Her mother comes over and Danielle says that her mom is a lot like her. She says exactly how she feels and she doesn't give an F. Okay. Her mom says whatever's on her mind and she don't care how you take it. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, it makes a lot of sense now. That's probably another reason why the brother isn't speaking to the mom either, because the mother probably had a lot of choice words to say about the brother's wife. That's just my opinion. So Danielle talks to her mom and to her husband about the whole Melissa rumor. Because she was telling her husband and her mother that back in Ireland, Margaret and Rachel were constantly attacking her. And Margaret really attacked her the worst, because Margaret said that really horrible thing about, I hope that your family never finds peace, or that you never get along with your family, referring to her brother, which I thought, Margaret was totally hitting below the belt with that. It was just so unnecessary for her to say that. But anyways, so, she was telling her mom and her husband, how Margaret was constantly attacking her in Ireland. And it really was like, burning inside of her that she had this information on Margaret, but couldn't tell her, but couldn't reveal it, because she had promised Jennifer that she wouldn't tell. And of course, the secret is this whole situation where Margaret had told somebody that Melissa was caught kissing some man, or I don't know if she was caught or not, but Melissa was kissing some other man, not her husband, in the backseat of a car. So even though this rumor is about Melissa, Jennifer and Danielle see this as something against Margaret, because Margaret had told a third party about what she heard about what she heard about Melissa. So I'm thinking, okay, this rumor would affect Melissa more than it would affect Margaret. Even though maybe Melissa might see it as a betrayal that Margaret would say something, would tell someone about this if this really happened. If Melissa even really was kissing another man, yeah, it could cause some type of friction between Margaret and Melissa, but this rumor is really about Melissa. So for Danielle to say that she was so angry at Margaret, knowing that she had this information on Margaret, I'm like, but the information is really going to be affecting Melissa. But anyways, moving on. Let's move on to Rachel. So Rachel and her husband, Fuda, they go see an attorney to talk about Rachel adopting her stepson. And the attorney tells them that, okay, sure, but you're going to have, we're going to have the mother served. The biological mother has to be served. She has to be given notice of what we're trying to do. And she does have the right to appear in court. She has the right to have an attorney present. And she also has the right to contest the adoption. So yeah, it's a process. Now, I think that Rachel, unless the mother is going to be very, very cooperative, I don't think they're going to go through with this. I think they're going to decide to leave well enough alone, because I don't understand if the mother has been MIA, which means that she has had no interest in seeing her child all these years. If the mother's been MIA, why are we doing this? Why are we trying to disrupt the peace and tranquility of your stepson? You have been his mother for however many years. You've raised him from a little boy, and he loves you. You love him. If you want to make sure that he is legally protected, and that if anything should happen to you, Rachel, you want to make sure that your stepson will also get his fair share, because you see him as your own child, then just make sure that your will includes him. Yeah, and I understand that the whole adoption thing seems a lot more glamorous, and you're really making a statement when you are adopting him, and that you are legally now his mother and his guardian. I totally get that. And you can make decisions for him if he needs an operation or whatever. You can make legal decisions for him. I understand that, but if it's going to be contested, if the adoption is going to be contested, it's going to end up being a fight and all this stuff, you should leave well enough alone. Go ahead and try to file your paperwork and kind of test the waters. If the mother comes out of the woodwork talking about, no, I don't agree, and I want my son back, and I want visitation rights, I don't know what to tell you. But Maybe you should just consider making sure that your will includes him and that you have power of attorney over him. I don't know. Moving on to Jennifer. So she's at home with her kid, with Olivia and Nabil. So her daughter Olivia tells her that she needs to wear more lingerie for daddy. And of course, Jennifer once again reminds us that, my daughter, wants me to do this because, of what Margaret said, and Margaret, it's all Margaret's fault. Blaming Margaret for the fact that Olivia is so traumatized and wants to help her parents' marriage. And I don't really see Olivia as being traumatized, but I don't know, maybe young children hide it better than adults. But I don't see her as being really traumatized. Every time that I see Olivia, she puts a smile on my damn face. She's always very happy and cheerful and funny. So, but to hear Jennifer tell it, Olivia is very, she's going through a very traumatic situation right now. She can barely get out of bed. She can barely make it because she can barely make her day through school because she's so traumatized about what Margaret had said. So, then she tells us that whenever her and Nabil are having some type of a disagreement, Olivia will come in between them and say, well, this is the reason why I want to be a love doctor or a love therapist, because I want to bring mommy and daddy together. And, it's all Margaret's fault that her child wants to repair relationships. But let me tell you something, Jennifer. When Olivia grows up and becomes a world-renowned family therapist, relationship expert, and she has sold millions and millions of copies of books, and she is living on the New York Times bestseller list, and everybody knows her because she gives such great advice. Please don't forget to thank Margaret, okay? Because you can take this as a positive thing that your daughter now has a goal that she's focused on. At the age of 9, she already has a goal of what she wants to do when she grows up. Anywho, moving on. So she sits down with her damn husband and they start talking about therapy. Now, Jennifer still wants to go back to their therapist because she says that they have some issues that they need to straighten out regarding their parenting. She feels like Nabil is blaming her for not doing the right thing or not doing enough for the children. And Nabil was like, I'm not blaming you about anything. And Jennifer says, well, that's how I feel. I feel like you're blaming me because I'm not doing certain things for the children. And so she tells him, I would like to go see the therapist. And he was like, well, I don't want to go. If you want to go, that's fine, but I'm done with her. So yeah, that's that. Moving on to Teresa. So she is taking her girls to get them fitted for their bridesmaids dresses. Y'all, let's pause here. When those girls came out of the fitting room in those dresses, I got chills. They all looked breathtakingly gorgeous. This is going to be a very aesthetically beautiful wedding. There's a lot of mess going on amongst the family members and all this and that. But as far as how this wedding is going to come across in pictures, I haven't seen the pictures. If the pictures are out there, I haven't seen them yet. But I think this wedding is just going to be so, so beautiful. Those girls looked absolutely gorgeous, every single last one of them. Now, their father happened to call. By the way, they just came back from seeing their father. Was it in the Bahamas? I think it was the Bahamas. I think that's the area where they can go, where Joe doesn't have to worry about immigration and all of that. So they just came back from seeing their dad in the Bahamas. And so as they're trying on their dresses, their father, Joe Giudice, calls them. And so they show him their dresses and he's really happy for them. And then Teresa gets a chance to speak to Joe, and Teresa tells him that, I pray every day that you're able to come back. And when she said that, I started crying. Every time there's a scene between these girls and their father, if one person, whether it's Teresa or one of the girls, if one person begins to cry, I start crying because I can see the love between those girls and their dad. They love that man to pieces. That man is everything. They don't give a damn what he did. They don't care about nothing. All they know is that their father, he's responsible for the sun and the moon rising and setting every day. So yeah, I love it. I love how much they love their father, how much their father loves them. I love how Teresa and Joe have overcome all of their challenges, and now they're at a point where they can be very civil and caring to one another. I love how that family has completely overcome so many difficult challenges, and there's still a lot of love between them, and they're all getting along, and it's just really beautiful. Moving on to Melissa. So Melissa, We find out that Antonia has made the honor roll. She gets a letter from the superintendent of the school district announcing that she has made the honor roll. And so they gift her a brand new car. And it's actually Melissa's mom that delivers the car to Antonia. And that was a really beautiful, joyous moment. So, yeah, she was so happy. She was so happy. She cried. She was really grateful to her parents for getting her this wonderful car. And I'm just amazed like how grown these kids are looking, because we were with these kids from when they were small, little tiny children, barely out of diapers, little tiny children, especially the boys. And we were there at the birth of Adriana. I remember Teresa being pregnant at one of those reunions with Adriana. So, and now Adriana, I think Adriana is the youngest one, and she's now 12 years old, y'all. That's amazing. So anyway, but Melissa's boys, I mean, especially, is it Gio? Is that the one that was in the kitchen with him? He looks like a young man. It's unbelievable. Anyways, so Melissa and Joe, they sit down and they talk about the damn trip to Ireland. And Melissa says, she talks about what happened. She talks about, the painting that they did for Teresa and the part that she painted and how emotional she got about that. And she says that she's done. She is done trying. She's done proving herself to Teresa. And Joe agrees. After this wedding, we're done with these people. Okay, fine. So then we move on to Dolores. Dolores meets up with Frank. Dolores tells us that Paul actually had wanted her to meet up with Frank so that they can talk about boundaries. So they meet up with Frank, and I thought it was so cute how Dolores ordered for Frank. And so their son Frankie has gotten his dream job and they want to celebrate. And Frank says that he wants to have a dinner in honor of Frankie, and he wants it to be just him, Dolores, and their daughter. He does not want anyone else there. No Paul, no Brittany, no nobody, just them four. And Dolores was like, no, I really want Paul there. And so Frank was like, oh, so Paul has to be there because he's not going to understand. He's going to be upset. And then Dolores was like, no, Paul has to be there because I want him there. Paul really doesn't care if he's there or not. I want him to be there because this is, she sees Paul as her family, and, she wants him involved in these family events. And I'm pretty sure Frankie has no issues with Paul. So this is another situation or another issue of where Frank Catania has to learn how to let go. I love Frank and Dolores. I love them together. I love them individually. I love them. I really like Frank and Dolores. They are probably my favorites on this show. When Dolores and Frank are on the screen, I'm interested. I'm happy. I like it. Frank is funny as hell. Dolores, she's very neutral. She wants the best for everybody. But then she's got a lot of street in her too. She'll give it to you when you need it. She'll give it to you full force. And that's what I love about Dolores, that she can be the peacemaker, but then can't nobody walk all over her. So I understand where Frank is coming from, that this is his family. Dolores and the kids, they are his family, and they forever will be his family. That will never change. But Frank needs to move on. He needs to move on. Number one, Dolores and Paul may never last. Okay, they probably aren't even going to last that long. Who the hell knows? Then Dolores is going to be right back to where she was before with him in his life. So Frank just needs to, he needs to stop constantly badgering Dolores about, why can't it be like the way it was? I want it to be like the way it was. Just because you're with Paul, why does it have to change? It's changing, Frank. It's changing, and it's going to continue to change, and you can't stop that. And it's okay. And it's not that Dolores is going to be leaving you forever. You just won't have free access to her because she has a partner now that you're going to have to respect. You can't just pop in whenever you want. You just can't be on the phone with her whenever for however long you want. She's got other things going on, and it's okay, Frank. It's okay. So he's really struggling. But I think, he'll be fine. He'll understand. So Dolores says that, she's got boundaries and she needs a little bit of space from him because she needs to make her man, a priority over Frank. Moving on. So now we get to the damn bridal shower. Okay, not much was going on there. It was just, first of all, before we get to the bridal shower, let's talk about the trip to the bridal shower. So we see Teresa and Melania and Adriana. They're driving to the bridal shower, but she doesn't know she's going to her bridal shower because it's going to be a surprise. So she thinks that she's just going to have brunch with her girls. So she gets a call from Louie, and Louie is trying to go through this guest list for some event that they're going to be having. And so he's going through the guest list and he's reading off all the names of the people that are invited. And then he says, and Melissa and Joe are not invited, right? So as soon as he says this, because he's on speakerphone, so as soon as he says this, Teresa takes him off speaker and talks to him directly into the phone and says, no, you cannot disinvite or not invite certain people and invite others. You have to invite everybody, making it look as if she had nothing to do with her brother and his wife not being on the list. When, my gut is telling me she discussed this with Louie. And I think this was just a made up scene. I think this was just a made up scene to make Teresa appear as if she wants to include Melissa and Herbert, because the whole situation didn't make any sense, because you're being recorded, but you're going to put them on speaker. Okay. You're being recorded, but you're going to put them on speaker. And then I'm pretty sure, as nosy and as controlling as Louie is, he probably knew that she was filming for the show at that particular moment. And it just sounded contrived when he was talking. He was like, okay, so it's going to be Dolores and +1, Margaret and +1, Jennifer and +1, Jackie and +1, but we're not inviting Melissa and Joe, right? And then she takes him off speaker and she goes, no, Louie, we got to invite everybody. We can't invite some and not invite others. We have to invite everybody. And I think this whole thing was planned and concocted just to show that Teresa wants to include her brother and his wife. Okay, message received, Teresa. So Melissa arrives at the bridal shower. She speaks with Louie's sister, and Melissa says in her confessional that she's got no issue with Louie's family. In fact, she does want Teresa to be close with her new in-laws. But this whole thing of having to replace Melissa with Louie's sisters, it makes no sense. Why not just keep everybody? Why do you feel like you have to push Melissa away to make room for Louie's sisters? Why can't y'all just all get along? So Danielle is also, so Danielle is there as well, and she's bursting at the seams because of this information that she's sitting on about Melissa. Anywho, Teresa shows up. Everybody yells out surprise. It's wonderful. It's beautiful. They sit down and they're having their meal. They're having dinner. And Danielle says, they talk about Ireland. And Danielle says that she left Ireland a different person from the one that she was when they came back. So she left one person and came back another. What? Okay, so this week-long trip, you completely changed into a different person? And when you were in Ireland, you were I don't understand how you've changed. Well, good for you. If you were able to make that type of a change in 7 days, congrats. So Teresa gets up and she gives a speech, and she thanks and acknowledges several people. Obviously, her new sister-in-laws, her best friend. I don't know if she acknowledged Jennifer. She acknowledged a lot of people, but she left out Melissa. And somebody came up to Melissa and was like, how do you feel that she didn't even say thank you to you? And Melissa was like, I don't look for her thank yous anymore. I don't look for her to acknowledge me anymore. So I'm used to it. It's no big deal. I don't know. So many times I've seen Teresa purposely will do things to leave out Melissa. And the funny thing is, it was Margaret that talked about Louie. It was Margaret that talked about Jennifer's, Nabil's. Margaret was the one that did a lot of things, but she's so angry at Melissa. Okay, let's leave Margaret out of it. What did Melissa do to not show support? Because every time that Margaret wanted to talk about the things that she heard or the things that she saw on the internet about Louie that was negative about Louie, unless I'm wrong, I think Melissa would always tell Margaret, don't talk about this. Don't bring this up to Teresa. Just support them, because she's not going to leave him. It doesn't matter what you say. They're not going to break up. I thought Melissa was the one that would tell Margaret, please don't bring this up, because it's not going to make any difference. So whenever Teresa talks about, oh, Jennifer always supported me and Louie's relationship. She always supported us. But didn't Melissa support y'all too because she didn't agree with the things that Margaret was doing? I don't know. I've always said Teresa is just really, really jealous of Melissa because I think that she wants what Melissa has, which is a very strong marriage. I don't know if it's perfect. I don't know. I don't know the ugly side of Melissa and Joe Gorga's marriage. All I know is that they're still together, and all I know is that Joe didn't put Melissa in jail. Now, I read an article, I think, on one of these, entertainment blogs, where it talked about Joe was probably the one that had called the feds on Joe Giudice, and that sent him to prison, which in turn sent his sister to prison. So the article was basically saying that Joe Gorga is responsible for his own sister going to prison because he was the one that reported them to the feds. Now, rumor has it was always Caroline Manzo that had called the feds on the Giudices. But this article that I read, it said that Joe Gorga was the one that gave an anonymous call because he really could not stand Joe Giudice and he wanted him gone. But in turn, it ended up sending his sister to prison. So I don't know if that's true or not. I have no idea. Thank you for joining me. I really do appreciate it. On your way out, please don't forget to rate the video. And if you like this content, please go ahead and subscribe, and I'll definitely talk to you later. Bye.